Because He Loves Cocaine by Melissa Scott. I can see it in his eyes when he comes creeping in. He's been somewhere he promised me he'd never go again. He thinks that I won't know it. He thinks that I can't tell. But he forgets how many times he's put me through this hell. The deceit is never ending. The betrayal, silly lies. How can he even sit there and look me in the eyes? I've cried so many tears. I feel all alone. He's sitting right beside me, but he's not really home. This drug has taken over him. It's eating up his soul. It's made his heart so ugly, black like a piece of coal. I try to stand beside him. I try to give him love. I beg him to love me more than it, but I'm not good enough. This burden is so heavy, I cannot tell my friends. I pray to God to help him. I pray it someday ends. Please, God, hear me praying. Please, God, help him soon. We have a little baby who thinks he hung the moon. He is just 8 months old, and I think it would be sad if a kid as great as him has to grow up without a dad. But his daddy is slowly dying, killing himself without a care. I wish that he could just understand that this just isn't fair. I have no happiness anymore. It's killing me as well. We always fight, we never laugh, we only scream and yell. This is our lives he's tearing apart. It's not a funny game. It's destroyed our family and killed our love because he loves cocaine. The first thing you'll notice about Melissa Scott's poem is the rhyming scheme that she uses, which is indicative of the cycle that cocaine addiction feels like for her and her husband and her family. She continues in the next stanza, but he forgets how many times he put me through this hell. When addiction is pulling at people to relapse, the mind will often try to justify the old feelings that were once miserable, having thoughts similar to, it wasn't that bad, or I was free, or I was who I really wanted to be, which seems like a choice. It seems like it's just a lack of empathy, but really it's their body, their chemicals in their brain telling them that it's okay and that you want this and that you need this, because addiction is that strong and it's something that pulls at you for forever. She continues, the deceit is never ending. The betrayal, silly lies. How can he even sit there and look me in the eyes? I've cried so many tears, I feel all alone. It's made his heart so ugly, black like a piece of coal. People who are actively using will lose themselves, their personality in a way. They'll lose not only their routines and possibly their jobs, but when they're using, they will face the effects of the drugs, whether it's nodding off or slurring words, not being able to piece thoughts together, which affects their personality. So when they are on or off the drugs and facing their lives, they will be often depressed and cold and distant, and it ties back into this justification and this cycle, this downward spiral, how it just feeds itself. She says, I beg him to love me more than it, but I'm not good enough. Which I want the readers from this to take out that the chemicals are so strong that it overpowers anything, even the love of a wife, which has been considered as one of the most powerful things in the human experience. Addiction, chemicals in your brain are that strong. There's people who will look down on people who relapse or are on the streets or are using openly or have a lack of empathy. It's important to understand how powerful this experience is and how powerful addiction is at any level. She says, this burden is so heavy, I cannot tell my friends. This is something that's observed often. There's a shame that many close family members and friends and anybody else related to them will describe as well. Mothers describe it as a failure of parenting. Spouses will say a failure of their love and anything of the sort. The choice to use once or twice has sent people spiraling, hurling through their family as well. because of how overpowering the want of addiction is, it can be difficult to help them in any meaningful way. Many people will reject going to rehab, will tell them that they're all okay, and it's difficult to balance. And this is when we talk about how can we help our friends, how can we help our family before keeping mental health in general for everybody in check can help keep addiction low. She says, I pray to God to help him. Many rehab programs will use a religious route to help people with addiction. Addiction is a disease that is characterized by loneliness, helplessness, and depression. Religion inherently helps people with these problems by offering hope and community and like a solid foundation. Most notably, the 12-step program, potentially the most famous form of addiction rehab, is a faith-based rehab at every step. She says, please God hear me praying. Please God help him soon. To Melissa, this feels like a problem that is completely out of her hands. It instills a helplessness and misunderstanding, feeling like she doesn't know what to do and can only rely on some sort of higher power, which to an extent is true. To an extent, there will be no understanding truly the brain of somebody who is using cocaine or any other substance for this matter. What's important to know is the power of addiction and understanding how if you're in the same situation as Melissa, how you empathy and understanding that, like, to a degree this isn't them, that is the most important thing you can do, the most important step that you can take to not separate yourself but understand what your friend, your family member, your coworker is going through. She goes on about taking care of her young son, but she continues, but his daddy is slowly dying, killing himself without a care. When people are addicted, no matter if you're 12 or 16, a teenager, or 50 or 60 years old, it doesn't matter if it's cannabis and alcohol or fentanyl and heroin. They have the disease of addiction, which does in fact kill. Cells in your body are being replaced, and depending on age, growth in all terms, mentally, physically, however you want to look at it, can and will be stunted. And that doesn't even include drunk driving while high. It doesn't include people overdosing. Addiction is a disease, and it's extremely, extremely dangerous. I have no happiness anymore. It's killing me as well. We always fight. We never laugh. We only scream and yell. This is our lives he's tearing apart. While varied sources have different information, anywhere between 7 and 35% of divorces that happened in the United States have cited substance abuse as the cause or a factor of their divorce. It's something that really can barrel through a family, and it's so hard to treat, and it's difficult to treat. But what's most important is that you understand to some degree. And to somebody who's lost their husband, to somebody who's lost their spouse in such a way, it can be difficult for someone to say, well, you just need to understand. But understanding is the first step of many to help not only you and your relationship, but your partners as well.